Today's show is brought to you by Homebrewsupply.com. Homebrew Supply has your favorite recipes, clone kits, ingredients, and draft equipment in stock and shipping out same day on orders placed before 11 a.m. Central. Everyday low pricing plus everyday flat rate $8.99 shipping means Homebrew Supply is your source for your homebrewing needs. Go to homebrewsupply.com, use the promo code HHH, and you'll receive 5% off your order. Some exclusions may apply. See store website for details.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question that you'd like discussed on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, and today I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer at kegconnection.com. And I noticed the lackingly non-dancing bear of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns.
Okay, I can dance.
No, you can't. I mean, you mean you're gonna try? Okay, sorry, I don't want to argue with you about your dancing abilities.
Not very nice.
That was not very nice. Somebody asked me last week. It was an audio listener. They didn't write in a question, but they said, the last couple episodes you've been starting and you're laughing. What are y'all talking about before? And I had to tell them it's not what we're talking about before. It's that I hit the bumper, or I hit the button for the music to start, and it's like a 5-second delay every time. You think that? I mean, when we are about to hit record, I say, guys, can y'all hear this? I hit it, and immediately it plays. And you're like, yeah, we hear that. It's just fine. I do that now when it's time to go live, and it takes its sweet time. And
I like the way you go.
Yeah, exactly. It's not embarrassing. I'm just laughing. It's whatever. Friends and family, thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. We are happy to have you back on this lovely December day. It's kind of rainy here in Austin, but I think my area, my suburb of Austin, we're like stage 1 drought restrictions, so the rain's welcome.
Still?
We just went in it about 10 days ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, and
wow.
We were still in it because we didn't y'all got rain recently, right?
We got a lot of rain last month, wasn't it, Todd? Or was it October that we got all the rain?
It's still kind of wet. I was walking around the ranch yesterday, and it was still, the ground was still damp.
That's good.
So,
you need that out there. I can't only, I watch. I don't actually know. Let me start with the question: are your properties out there, like your ranch, your family's ranch, your neighbors and all that, are they prone to the type of wild fires that we see in other states?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and we've got, we haven't grazed cattle for a long time, and we've been trying to work on building up the grass, and it's to the point right now where it all dried out for the winter. We could easily have a major fire. We're a little bit worried about it. So
yeah, I always wonder about that because I was just up there recently. You were a wonderful host. You abandoned me and left me to myself that Monday. But I was smoking a cigar and I was because it was very windy. I don't know if you remember Monday afternoon and evening. It got very windy, and I was trying to be very careful because I saw.
I noticed there were quite a few cigars, beers, whiskeys missing when I got home.
Oh, whatever.
You must have really had a good time.
No, the one thing I will admit is your entire pie. I told you I was going to eat that chest pie that your mom made, and you had about this much of it, and then I had the rest.
Unbelievable.
And I really did too. I told you, and I think you and Liz, because y'all laughed when y'all were leaving for the concert y'all were going to Monday night, and I said, "Don't get mad if there's no pie." And Liz was like, "No, please eat it. She made it like a little bit ago, and we're not going to eat it all. Please help yourself." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna help myself.
Fat Josh is back.
Hey,
welcome back.
Welcome back. I actually, so the 9
Fat Josh is back.
the 9 pounds that I gained between when we got back from Europe and today, I've lost 3 of those so far. I was on the treadmill with a donut in front of me, just crying and like, Fat Josh, you gotta go away, but still chasing the donut. We have a wonderful show lined up. Before we get into it, did y'all know yesterday we're recording this on Thursday, December the 6th. Wednesday, December the 5th was the 85th, I think, or 85th. Yeah, it was because it was 1933. It was the 85th anniversary of the 21st Amendment, or also known as Repeal Day.
Yeah.
Wow. Yay.
Yeah. And you know what's even more important? You know what tomorrow is?
A day that will live in infamy.
Yeah, I was about to. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because the days are always so close. I get to wear I have a resist prohibition shirt. I should have wore it today. I wore the stupid stained sweater instead. But I have one from Victory Brewing. Todd actually bought it for me at Great American Beer Festival 2000. When did we go? 2013. I got to wear that yesterday, and then I get to listen to all my favorite audio books and podcasts tomorrow to get into the mood. I might watch Band of Brothers too. I don't know.
There you go. That's a good one.
Isn't that a good miniseries? That's probably my favorite.
Well, you know what? You could watch Toro. That's what I would watch.
Is it on Netflix or Amazon?
No, you're probably going to have to. One time it was on Amazon, but you may have to rent it. But it'll be a cheap rent.
Oh, total. No, I'm all about in Amazon too. Usually I can find a coupon code to get like a $3 rental. Which that $3 is impulse. I've thrown $3 at a lot worse decisions, and I'll just leave it at that. But so I didn't actually drink a drop yesterday. I was so busy slaving away for the man. But I heard, Todd, you were hosting a guest. I heard that you had your fair share for all of us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I did my part, and it was a long night.
And he's talking slower than usual.
Slowly.
Also, what I wanted to bring up, when I was up there, James was nice enough to let me taste. It was right out of the, I don't remember if it was in your primary or if you had already moved it over to be cold crushed.
No, it was actually come right out of the conical. So
your Kolsch. Woo! It was just, oh man, I cannot, that is going to be Christmas party ready, correct?
Yep. It's going to be ready to go. In fact, hopefully it'll have enough time to clarify. It finished out yesterday. I had thought that it finished out Monday. I was all excited. Well, I got to looking at the hydrometer. It was cracked at the bottom, had a little liquid in it. So it's actually at 10:14, but it should be ready to cold crash tomorrow.
Todd, you look awfully guilty when he's talking about broken
broken hydrometer. Who would break a hydrometer? I don't use hydrometers anymore because I've never not broken one while brewing.
You don't, and you looked. So we had a brew day on Monday using the cooler brew system. Which, first off, those systems are so cool. I could not be more excited about getting into all grain brewing with my dad for next year because it was so much more. I mean, I know how to brew on those. I've been around y'all. We never brewed on coolers before, but we've talked enough theory where I think I'd feel comfortable if you gave them to me. No, because I know the process. I know what you're supposed to do. But I forgot how straightforward and rewarding though at the same time. You know what I mean? It felt like, even though I was just filming, I wasn't in the video, it felt rewarding to go through the steps of getting the how many pounds of grain was that we put in?
26 pounds.
Yeah. That just, all the process of stirring in the grains. And it also made me realize too, how brewing with a friend, or in my case, he's my friend, but my father is that much more enjoyable and makes the brew day that much easier. Because Todd had a brew day on that system the week before, and you were picking up 100-pound kettles.
Yeah, it's different when you're doing it by yourself. And I can say I love brewing with Todd because he knows what to do, when to do it.
Right.
And so it's not like I'm being a flight director on the whole process. I step away, he steps in. So it's really nice to brew with somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and
I got to make lunch while we were brewing.
Absolutely, good lunch.
You made us breakfast. You made us lunch. It felt like the old days, Todd.
Except it wasn't my wife.
I would say Liz is a lot better looking than you, but but besides that, I had such a blast. I can't wait. We're gonna be we have some animated components to that video before we're gonna compile it and publish it, but it should be done very soon. I was looking over the footage all day yesterday, and I am very excited about that.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the animation at this point, and we're supposed to have the animation by tomorrow at the latest. He actually said he would have it back today, but I haven't seen it yet. So
yeah, no worries. It will get done, and I'm super pumped about it. Which reminds me, I had a little thing on here to talk about what are good beers to brew at this time. We brewed an ESB, which James, I always associate ESB with this time of the year, and I don't know if it's because it's when I end up drinking English ales, or is it traditionally considered like winter? I'm doing air quotes here, winter beer.
No, I don't think so. I think that's the kind of beer they drink in the region in England. And they drink in every pub every day. That's a pretty standard, kind of like a Pils in Germany.
So it could be this time of year because by default it's every time of the year.
Exactly.
There you go. So you are right as usual.
Thank you, Todd. Well, that's what I think. I asked this question to Todd when we were there that night before he went to the concert, and he was like, "No, I think it's like Kolsch or Alt, where it's just all the time."
I gave him exactly the same answer, James, and then he had to ask you. I don't know what that means.
Todd, I will cut this show right now.
I should have said what Todd told you.
You really should have. Yeah. Well, if you just want your ego stroked, Josh. You just want to. Anyway, I am so pumped. This is my favorite time of the year. It's so fun to brew. I like the cold. The beers of this time of the year, like winter warmers. Isn't that the next one you talked about brewing, Todd, as a winter warmer?
Yeah, I thought about doing a winter warmer, some sort of a winter style beer. I haven't brewed one in a while. I brewed an IPA on you're talking about me brewing on Monday. I brewed an IPA, and I have not brewed an IPA in a long time because James won't let me. But he wasn't there. So.
Yeah, he was brewing by himself, to get ready for the video, and he jumped on an IPA.
This is a good time to segue, though. That you brewed 10 gallons of an IPA on that 10-gallon cooler brew system.
And that was a pretty heavy grain bill. It was approaching 30 pounds, and I think not to contradict James, but I think that the grain bill on the one the ESB was actually 23 to 24 pounds, and the one that I brewed I think was 27 or 28 pounds. So it was getting up there. Both of those had a pretty good grain bill.
But my point being, though, I'm impressed that especially with the IPA, that bigger of a beer was comfortably brewed on a cooler system, where there are some, because I think those coolers aren't. I mean, they're 11.7 gallons. What is the capacity of them, or the volume rather?
11.7. Yeah, and I'll have to look that recipe up. It maybe I don't know exactly how many pounds it was, but it was a lot. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that's right. It was 23 pounds on that grain bill. It's 26 for the IPA, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, 20, almost 27. Yeah, it was.
So
it had some 0.3s and stuff in there. It had some black patent.
Hey, as a male, every little point matters, man. Let me just tell you that. If my dad and I continue to do just 5-gallon batches, which depending on what we're brewing, I'm happy that system can comfortably brew very full-bodied beers, very big beers, right, James? Especially in a 5-gallon.
Oh yeah. You may not be able to do a 10% beer in a 10-gallon batch, but you could probably do an 8-gallon batch if you wanted to, or definitely a 5. So you kind of have to play around the gravity. The higher the gravity, the bigger the grain bill, the less volume you're going to have, especially if you go high grain to water to grain ratios. And I think what we did on the 26, we calculated that at 1.5, didn't we, Todd? The one that you did the first time. And then when we did the ESB Monday, I think I backed that down to 1.25. So just to kind of play around to see what the limits were on the system. But for sure, if you wanted to go big gravity, you can definitely do a 5. You might be able to push that to as much as an 8. Just depends on your grain build and grain absorption.
And that would be a good opportunity to tell people use the calculators you're using on like Brewer's Friend or Beersmith will come in handy.
Yeah, it'll tell you what you can get away with, but just remember that with the cooler setup, you always want to think about, you don't want to stuck a mash, especially when you go to mash out or sparge. But you could get away with going a 1-to-1 ratio. I know a lot of German brewers use that ratio. It's awful thick though, so just be careful.
Words that Todd has never heard in his life. Anyway, let's move on to the question.
Inappropriate again. So, and the problem, James, with it being real thick, I guess, is that you got to be careful when you boil it so you don't scorch it. Is that the idea?
Well, when it's thick like that, when you go to do the mash out or the sparge, when it gets real thick, it makes sure you stir it up real good, because it is a possibility of having what's called a stuck sparge. So it won't flow through the grains like it should. But I have done thick grist ratios on coolers before. 1-to-1, I don't have an issue with.
Okay.
I think it's a bigger issue with the automated machine that has recirculation.
I just realized what a stupid question that was, because obviously it's not going to be thicker by the time you get it up to the 12 gallons or 11 and a half gallons that you're boiling. Yeah. So
right.
Can I rescind that?
No, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
That's exactly right. And you know what? There's probably a dozen people thinking the same thing as they're following along with what we're saying.
Right.
When we're talking about a thick grist ratio or water to grain ratio, it's just how much water you have versus a pound of grain. And then you divide that into 4, that gets you gallons. And typically a German brewer want to stick 1-to-1 because they like the mash thick. And back in the day, when they knew that they had that ratio, the correct amount, it would hold the mash paddle up straight up in the mash tun.
Nice.
That's how they knew that they had the right ratio. If it wouldn't hold it up, it was too thin. But we've all brewed with the thick and thin grist ratios, and I haven't noticed a difference between them. But people could debate me on that, but I haven't seen a big difference, noticeable difference.
That's a cool bit of trivia. All right, so I do actually have questions for this show. So I'm going to start off with Jeff, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, wrote in, "Hey guys, I love the show and I've been listening from the beginning, although you almost lost me with that crazy long hiatus. I wasn't sure you were ever coming back. And then we did. So thanks, Jeff. I have a question about y'all's favorite style of beer. I wonder if he's from the South, because he used y'all a few times in here. I like that. And he writes, I want to ask a question about y'all's favorite style of beer, wink, wink, the hazy IPA. I have a great recipe for a double pale ale that I would like to try and hazify. Can I just switch out the yeast to do this? And if so, what kind of yeast would you recommend? Thanks so much and keep up the hard work, Jeff." Well, when I think hazy IPA, I think James Carlson. So James, why don't you?
Yeah, nobody does.
Absolutely.
Anybody that follows the show knows better than that.
So why don't you take
Actually, I like hazy IPAs. But I don't know the answer. So we'll
Well, I would just keep in mind that the hazy part that makes that particular style hazy is the hops. You massively dry hop that after, and also in the whirlpool. So that's what's causing the haze, or supposed to be causing the haze. Not so much a yeast issue; it's a dry hop issue. So, me personally, I like the Imperial yeast. They make a fantastic product, and the juice.
Yeah.
If I was going to go with any of them, I would go with the juice, because it's more designed for that. Now you got to keep in mind that on juice, you need to make sure that wort is completely oxygenated. You want to oxygenate that, because that yeast needs that. Even to the point where if you had some oxygen, you could do it. Using that wouldn't be a bad idea as well. But if you've just got a spoon, just make sure you shake it up really good and get it good and ready for the yeast to multiply.
Go ahead, Todd.
Well, I was just going to say that a great example of that, James, is when we brewed, because if you remember, I was talking on the camera and not paying attention to what I was doing when we pitched the yeast. And I think we recorded that on video for posterity, right?
We did, actually.
So I didn't shake the first one, and I opened it up, starting to put it in. It was globbing out, and we were pushing it with the paddle, trying to get it apart. And then the second one, I really shook well and pitched it, And then lo and behold, one of them started fermenting in like 8 hours, and the other one took almost 2 days to start fermenting. I think we can guess which one was which, right?
Yeah, that's really important. That's a good thing to bring up. You want to knead that bag before you pour it in. Shake it up real good, because there's a good example. There's what we've talked about it in the past. That's called lag time for the yeast to multiply enough to where you can see activity through the airlock. So if you just sprinkle it on like dry yeast, a lot of people will hydrate that yeast before they put it in the wort. And a lot of people will just sprinkle it on the wort. So it'll have to multiply before you can see any visible action.
And let's recap, because it's been a while since we've talked about hazy IPAs, and usually I'll discuss these questions with Joe and have him on the show. But the haze craze, to you, James, in your opinion, is it about the aesthetics, or is it about the abundance of hops that people are using?
It's now, I'm not, everybody that follows the show knows that I'm not a great big fan of super hop beers, but I do like the hazy IPA, mainly because more of the hops are in the whirlpool. That beer, and Todd, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to me, it's more of an aromatic versus a bitter IPA. So all of that's being done in the whirlpool and also in dry hopping after the fact.
Yeah.
Because you're dry hopping such a huge amount of hops, it puts off that hazy characteristic, which makes it cloudy. And so it's not a yeast issue. It's because of the fact that what you're utilizing hop-wise is causing that effect in the beer. So if you were going to ask me, and the question was, should I change yeast? I don't think you're going to make that hazy by just introducing a lot more hops in that brew. So I would try that first. If you got a good beer and you like that and you're using a certain amount of yeast, just add the extra hops and see what turns out. That's what I do, and I take notes. And if it works, then you've made something unique.
When we see other beers that are, and I'm doing air quotes again for audio only listeners, that are hazy, it usually means they're yeasty, right? They're not hazy.
Well, it sure does look like they're yeasty, and we've all seen the hop bomb NEPAs that, they look like mud. And
some of them are muddy. They're not hazy. Yeah. You're right. They're muddy.
So, now that could be an issue if they just really went nuts on hops. But some of it sure does look like a yeast rub, and I could be wrong about that, but that's what it looks like.
So those hazy IPAs probably are not very affordable to brew, is also what I'm hearing. I've never brewed one.
Yeah, they're the one that I did. I don't know if y'all remember, we did it last year. I want to say there was 3 pounds of hops in that batch.
Wow.
A lot. 3 pounds? How about it was a big batch, 15 gallon?
Yeah, I think it was a 10-gallon batch is what I did on that. But I want to say it was 3 pounds. I've got the recipe, and it was going to be one of future True to Style recipes. But at that time, if you remember, we hadn't got the new revisions from the BJCP guideline along those lines. So wanted to kind of hold off on that until we measured what we had with what the book says. So
what you're saying is your New England styled IPA might still be a True to Style recipe down the line.
It could be. I've got the notes. I just need to sit down and do the homework on it and see.
Perfect.
And maybe brew another batch and have you guys and several other people evaluate it, and then we'll compare.
Absolutely. Jeff, thank you so much for writing in. Our last question of the show comes from Alan, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. He writes in, "Hey guys, I've got a question that's bugged me for a while. I use a Grainfather with counterflow chiller. It works well, and as you know, the cool wort is straight to the fermentation vessel with the cold break. If I used a normal chiller in my kettle, the cold break would be left in the kettle. Does the cold break in the wort make any difference? Thanks, Alan." To start this off, let's get some clarification, because cold break is a process as well as a brand. Right now, Alan's talking about the process. James, what is the process of cold break?
Well, basically anybody that's cooled down wort, especially all grain, you'll notice it looks like egg drop soup as it gets below 140 degrees. And that's the best description that I can give it. That's what it looks like. Yep. And what that is those proteins are coagulating or fluctuating. That could sound really bad if I say it the wrong way. But basically, that means they're clumping together and cooling down and it's down in the bottom. It looks nasty, and a lot of people will go through tremendous effort to try to not get that in the fermenter. And I've never really worried about it. I guess if you were going to make a really ultra light, delicate beer, it is possible that if you have too much of that in the fermenter and you don't secondary, and it's been in the primary a little too long, it is possible that that can cause off flavors. But I have never known the cold break to ever affect the way a beer tastes, especially one of the lightest beers that we brew regularly would be the Kolsch. And I think some of that is actually helpful for the yeast. There's some stuff in that cold break that the yeast like that is beneficial. And so you have both sides saying, no, never let it get into the primary. If you do get it in the primary, then you absolutely have to secondary it. My personal opinion is I don't think it's a big deal. It's going to be almost impossible to not get a little bit of that in there, but I've never known it to affect anything that I've brewed.
Here's a couple side questions.
Concur.
Okay, I concur. I like that.
Because I didn't even know there was a name for that.
I'm about to include you in this question. I have a couple of side questions. The first one, talking about the type of chiller. Todd, you're an equipment man. I've never used a counterflow chiller. I've never on my own brewed on the Grainfather. I've been there plenty of times and y'all have brewed on it. And it comes with a counterflow chiller with the unit. I've never used the counterflow chiller in other circumstances. Either one of you can answer my question, or both of you. Is that counterflow chiller objectively better than like an immersion chiller, which is traditionally the kind of chiller I use for my cool down process?
James has a very strong opinion on that. I know, so I'll let him answer.
I think the immersion chiller is the way to go. I really like that, and we have both. And we seem to, and Todd can back me up on this, we have better luck and quicker cooling down with immersion and set up the right way than a counterflow. And I think the counterflows aren't as efficient.
Counterflow chillers tend to be more pricey though, don't they?
They do.
What's up with that?
Complicated. They're very complicated. You have a copper wire running inside of a copper wire because, one of them is you're taking the water and putting it around the other pipe. So it's a fairly complicated, fairly expensive thing to make. You also have a lot more copper.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. And a lot of times it's one of those things like the one that we have now, I'd like to cut it apart and look at it because it's just not near as efficient as it should be. So to properly do a counterflow chiller, if you're using copper pipe, you would take a piece of copper wire and wrap it around the inside pipe so that you have clearance around the whole 360 degrees around the outside of the tube. A lot of times, these chillers, they'll just throw the tube inside the other one and roll it on a mandrel. Well, what happens is you're losing half of your cooling surface area because it's not being done. So there's some chillers out there that aren't made the way they should be made, and that's probably why their performance is down.
So you're saying that one of the copper tubes is actually resting on the other copper tube, so there's nothing flowing between. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's right. So then you're forced to have to do another thing, which would be immerse that into ice water to compensate for the imperfections of the way it was built or constructed. So to me, you can go through all that, or you just throw an immersion chiller in the last 15 minutes when you add your Wurflock tablet, let it sanitize, and go to town.
What I really like to do, because we tend to have at times we can have very hot water here.
True.
And that becomes very problematic. But when I brew at home, it's always the same temperature because it comes from a well. So It's about 70 degrees. And the 70 degrees is great unless you're trying to get to 70 degrees. And the last 10 degrees it takes a lot longer to get to than the rest. Yeah. So what we've started doing is taking an immersion chiller and putting that into the boil just like anybody would do. Then we take another immersion chiller, put that in a 5-gallon bucket, and they're connected to each other. So the water is flowing through the first one that's in the bucket, then flowing through the wort, and then when you get a lot of efficiency in the very beginning. But to get that last 10 degrees or so down, when we get to about 80 degrees, we fill the bucket full of ice and have ice water.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of super chilling that, and it gets that wort down to where you need it very quickly.
Yeah, y'all's method has proven to be extremely effective and efficient. I've observed on Monday's brew day. It looks way more complicated than it actually is. It like you said, it is just two immersion chillers doing their thing. But people like how it looks. When I post it online, people are like, whoa, that looks fancy. Like, that's all we are. We're just pretending that we know what we're doing and that we're fancy.
So I actually, when I brewed, I did not have that. I just had the immersion chiller, and I thought it would be no problem because of the well temperature. The last time I thought it would be okay. It was, I was thinking to myself, it's winter, so I'm not going to have a problem. But I forgot it once again that the water's the same temperature all year. And so I did the tea bagging method of I took a big bag that we put the grain in, filled that full of ice, dunked it in the sanitizer for a minute, pulled it out, shook it, and then took that ice and I was dunking it in and out of the kettle, trying to get it to cool down the last 5 degrees. So that was not any fun. Our other method's a lot better. So.
Right, and I would imagine too that it took quite a bit of time for that to drop.
Yeah, it did.
That way, and if you've got a 70-degree well water, there's no way you can get the wort to 70 in any.
Yeah. Right.
So you have sometimes you just like we are. You have to be you have to MacGyver your situation and think outside the box. And
there's a brand called Jaded. I believe they only do direct sale. I need to get in touch with them and maybe do a collaboration or a video on their product, because everyone online, specifically Reddit, they swear by it. This guy said that he got it's an immersion chiller. It's called the Hydra from Jaded. I don't think any of us have hands-on experience with it. But one guy said that he got his cooling time down to 5 minutes on it.
I think he's one of the followers of Homebrew Happy Hour.
Jaded Brewing is?
No. Okay, I'm thinking about a different. He posted. He got a new chiller, and it just looks like a wadded ball of copper.
Yeah. Well, he's probably using. A lot of people are starting to buy, and they're kind of pricey, right? I think they start at $1.50.
Remember, we saw those at the Homebrew Con this year, and they are probably look like 1,000 feet of copper tubing.
That's what I want to try to get our hands on for a video, because that is like we did that very popular now review or overview video that you did, James, on the electric brewing systems. I think a lot of people write in and asking about the Jaded, and because we don't have hands-on experience, I just tell them like, hey, I'm going to try to get it hands-on so we can help you with your question. But I think that would be very cool to do, because like I said, right now, Jaded Hydra is like all the rage. People, that's on everyone's wish list apparently for Christmas.
Yeah, that's exactly. It was Hackler22.
Is the Instagram?
Yeah, it's the Instagram. So if you guys want to see it, if you're on Instagram, check him out. He's a good listener of the show, and look at that thing. That is.
What it is. It's really just pure. Oh my gosh, my phone's. It's really just pure amount of copper.
Yeah, just surface area.
Enormous amount of surface area. Yeah.
Either way, Todd, it's what the people want. Don't just ruin the mystique, okay? It's what the people want.
But now, keep in mind that something like that will absolutely, positively cool it down. But also, you've got to make sure, you got to remember that copper's not cheap now. So sometimes homebrewing is a cross between what we really want and what we can afford. So we have to make the best of both.
Absolutely. And I want to get this in real quick. The second little fork I was going to take from this question too is talking about primary and secondary. James, correct me if I'm wrong. You do secondary again, right? You're back to that, or are you only cold crashing certain styles? I forget where we're at.
If I can, I use the conical.
Okay.
Because I can drain the trub off. In fact, I drained a quart off this morning on the coals. And I've quit doing, I'll be honest, I quit secondarying a long time ago.
And I brought that up because you're not unique in that, not to hurt your feelings. You're not a snowflake.
No. There are a lot of people don't like the secondary. I think the risk of oxygenating I can't even say that word, But I think that risk alone is the reason why I don't do it.
And that's what people online have been saying. Todd, I meant to ask you, because you have there was a room at your barn, what you call a barn. It's really the Burns compound. There's a room.
Nice
There's a room full of right now it's like 15 or 25 gallons of beer fermenting there. Are any of those going to secondary, or do you not secondary either?
I have been known to secondary, definitely. I mean, I like to put them in a 5-gallon secondary glass carboy. I do that quite a bit. Yes.
Okay. My father and I do too. And I think for clarification's sake, but like what you said, James, every time I hold my breath because I don't want that cardboard taste that's, oh, yep, it got, too much oxygen in it.
Yeah. And that's one of those, when you going back to subtle taste, that's that subtle flaw that I can't hardly stand. A lot of people talk about diacetyl, but to me, when you get that cardboard taste, I don't even want to drink it.
Exactly. I know. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I know, like I said, that is a huge topic that we actually are going to discuss on a future episode, because we get a lot of questions about fermentation process and specifically secondary. What's up, Todd?
So, James, it seems like if you're worried about that, maybe I should be worried about it more too. But
you're very careful. I've seen how you secondary.
What if you just took your CO2 tank, put a hose off the end of your regulator without anything on it, and just purge that secondary with CO2
Absolutely.
before you put it in there?
Definitely. You can do that, and that will make a big, huge difference.
I'll try that next when I do the secondary. I'm going to do that. I'm going to blow quite a bit of CO2 gas in there and purge it out, and then put the hose in and go ahead and do it that way.
No, that's a great idea.
You also could maybe put the hose in the beer when you're done, so even the headspace doesn't.
Sure.
You're sure the headspace doesn't have any.
I know when we were doing on the big system, I actually devised a air gun, just an air gun from I got it like Tractor Supply, and I had that connected to the end with an MFL, and I would shoot the keg before I closed it up. Or whatever I was, even growlers too, because we were doing growlers at that time, and I would shoot the growler before I closed it up. So that's a great idea. It's going to stay in there.
Okay.
And what he's saying though, Todd, is it's not a thing of laziness. When you have the conical, it makes that much easier for him to decide to not do secondary, right?
Right, because I can drain the trub off the bottom.
Right, exactly. And that's why people, the spoiler alert for the future episode we're going to also like Craft a Brews. What is their system called now? The Catalyst is what it's called. But,
is that the one that has the jar that you can reclaim?
Exactly. And it's very affordable. I mean, I think it's around $1.50 or $1.30.
Yeah, I think actually they have, if you remember, Todd, that has the rather large ball valve. Design at the bottom, and it that's the one thing about conicals that it can get frustrating is what happens is at the bottom of that V it'll compact, so it's hard to get the yeast to flush out the bottom without completely flushing all the beer out of the conical.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to do it in little amounts or get it at the right time to where you can get it all out. It's kind of you have to play around. I've had beer before where the yeast was so fine it would pack and it would just shoot a stream of wort through it. I wasn't getting anything. So, you have to kind of play around with that. Know your equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, we went a lot longer than I thought we would, but it was a good show, good episode. I appreciate y'all taking the time. I know, again, it's the busiest time of the year. Todd has had meetings and people, believe it or not, he's a hardworking man, and James as well. It is crazy over there. I was fortunate to hightail it out of HQ a little early because we did that video Monday, and I was able to use the excuse of working on the video Tuesday.
Yeah, I worked till midnight last night.
Yeah, market research.
That's right. Holy moly. Thank you guys so much.
Entertaining a vendor. That's working.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not taking anything away from you, man. I'm on the same page as you.
We're very proud of you.
I've worked
proud of you.
Yeah, And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call them in by dialing 325-305-6107 and leave your message after the beep. Thank you to our show sponsor, homebrewsupply.com, for supporting our podcast and the home brewing community. Go to homebrewsupply.com, use the promo code HHH, and you'll receive 5% off your order. Some exclusions may apply. See the store website for details. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.